We are glad you're with us tonight. There's a developing situation coming out of Washington, D.C. right now.
A Mississippi senator has received a letter containing ricin or some other type of poison.
Republican Senator Roger Wicker received the letter, but there's no word yet if that letter was sent to his office in Washington or in Mississippi. Authorities are not saying if this is linked to that ongoing investigation in Boston.
Meanwhile, President Obama is calling the bombing in Boston an act of terror. 3 people are dead and more than 170 are injured.
A $50,000 reward now being offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those behind Monday's attacks at the Boston Marathon. Emily Schmidt has the latest from Boston.
As the city of Boston deals with the aftermath of Monday's horrific attack, President Obama said Tuesday the FBI is investigating it as an act of terror.
The American people refuse to be terrorized because what the world saw yesterday in the aftermath of the explosions were stories of heroism and kindness and generosity and love.
Investigators continue to search for a suspect and motive, asking for photos and videos taken at and around the Boston Marathon finish line to help their investigation. But that investigation doesn't stop in Boston.
This will be a worldwide investigation. We will go where the evidence and the leads take us. We will go to the ends of the earth to identify the subject or subjects who are responsible for this despicable crime, and we will do everything we can to bring them to justice.
Justice for killing people like 8-year-old Martin Richard, injuring runners and spectators, and bringing terror to another U.S. city. Dr. Ron Walls, one of many doctors treating the injured, said victims of that terror are showing amazing resilience.
I think the more people are challenged, the more they rise, and I've seen many patients with critical illness and critical injuries, and still after 30 years of doing this, I'm still impressed with how they handle it.
Now Boston and those injured are working to heal with the support of an entire nation. The New York Stock Exchange observed a moment of silence before ringing the opening bell to honor Boston's victims.
President Obama said in his Tuesday morning statement that investigators don't know who is behind the bombing, why they did it, don't even know if the bomber was foreign or domestic. But he says it is a reminder to all Americans that if they see something suspicious, they must tell investigators about it. In Boston, I'm Emily Schmidt.
Back here in Alabama, the Boston bombings are still fresh on everyone's mind.
Local JROTC students spent their morning showing patriotism for the United States through a flag retirement ceremony. WVUA's Jennifer Edwards joins us now live with more. Jennifer?
Philip, Lynn, organizers of the ceremony told me it had been scheduled for a while, but they said yesterday's events in Boston made today's ceremony more meaningful.
It shows the patriotism that most people have lost for this country. People don't have patriotism anymore, and this helps us show the patriotism we have left. And I feel very proud to be a part of such a ceremony that might be so little to most people, but is a very big part of who we are. So it makes me feel special.
JROTC cadets from Holt High School led the flag retirement ceremony at the Tuscaloosa VA Medical Center. The students properly disposed of about 150 torn and tattered flags from all across the United States.
Not many people actually realize how important flags are, or the little things in this world. They take them for granted sometimes, and as JROTC, we kind of just want to show everybody how important they are to us.
Senior Army instructor, Lieutenant Colonel retired Frank Hanna, said it's important to hold ceremonies like this to keep patriotism alive in his cadets, especially after events like the Boston bombings.
We have several that will probably go into the military, and they see from this that, you know, even though we get bombed one day, then the next day we turn around and we have a patriotic ceremony that honors the flags and honors all the fallen people who have died, you know, in service to this country for this flag.
One day I hope that I can go in the U.S. Marine Corps in the military and help out and protect my country from people like that.
Hannah says the Holt High School JROTC holds a flag retirement ceremony once a year. Lynn, Philip.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, today marks 50 years since Martin Luther King Jr. wrote his letter from the Birmingham jail.
And the Tuscaloosa Public Library held a special observance. They hosted readings of the letter and discussions about its impact 50 years later. Dr. King wrote the letter while jailed for his role in civil rights demonstrations. The letter was in response to white clergymen in Alabama who suggested that Dr. King find other ways instead of demonstrations to seek racial equality.
Human rights violations continue worldwide, and that these are just an example of what a person can do. You're never totally beaten down. There's always something you can do no matter where you are, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't give up.
And local and state leaders honored Dr. King today by unveiling a historic marker next to the jail where he was held.
On your Crime Watch tonight, another arrest in connection with the death of a Tuscaloosa County teen. There are now 4 people behind bars charged with murder in connection to the death of Matthew Callahan. According to Tuscaloosa Metro Homicide Unit Lieutenant Kip Hart, 18-year-old Tamara Siobhan Wilder was arrested this morning. Shidell Walker, Keontae Furr, and Timothy Thornton are also charged with murder. 17-year-old Callahan was fatally shot in the parking lot of River Road condos last week. Authorities say they believe the meeting was under the guise of a drug transaction. Hart says more charges and arrests are possible.
New at 6, more than 500 Alabama students are putting their skills to the test. It's all part of the university's annual Undergraduate Research and Creativity Activity Conference. The students presented their projects before judges and competed for cash prizes. Organizers say it's a good way for students to earn practical experience. If you're itching with Bama football fever, this weekend is your chance to get a remedy.
That is because A-Days this Saturday. Thousands of Bama football fans will pack into Bryant-Denny Stadium to see their favorite players and Coach Saban. Alabama's home team will be on hand outside the north end zone, right there on the Walk of Champions, to meet with all of our fans and Bama's fans as well, starting at 10 a.m. And WVUA will have a special programming for you between 11 a.m. and noon, with the Iron Bowl hour, followed by a special A-Day edition of Crimson Tide Kickoff starting at noon. A-Day kicks off the actual game at 2 p.m. and will be televised by ESPN2.
Finding an alligator in your front yard would be a surprise to anyone.
Yeah, but just imagine if you found one that was 12 feet long. That happened to one woman in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Diana Andrews says she was startled when she opened her front door and spotted this gator on her porch. Crews struggled but finally got control of the alligator that weighed about 1,000 pounds. Andrews says there are alligators in the lagoon behind her house. She had never seen one come that close to her home before, and I would imagine she doesn't want to have that happen again.
I think not. No.
And now imagine living through the sinking of the Titanic, World War I, II, and everyone after.
Well, this one man has, and he's not letting his age slow him down. In fact, he's still working. Noah Smith, there he is 105 years old, and he still manages to preach at Wayman AME Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He hasn't always been a minister, though. Smith has worked as an artist, shoe shiner, and a musician. He says it wasn't until a friend suggested that he join the ministry that he took on his latest role. And the Reverend Smith doesn't plan to retire anytime soon. He says he tried that when he turned 90 and didn't like it. So he preaches about once a month, and he says he makes sure that his sermons last less than 20 minutes.